Report Story, Chapter 9. Izuku helped Ochako to Recovery Girl's office. Ochako insisted she was okay, but her point was instantly disproved by a wave of nausea when she tried to stand. It was a long walk, but Ochako really didn't mind. It was time she got to spend with Izuku, and that was enough. They stumbled into Recovery Girl's office, where Ochako collapsed onto a bed. Izuku took the seat directly adjacent to it. I saw you two fight. You did exceptionally well, especially considering Izuku didn't break himself this time. Recovery Girl teased, causing a blush to spread across Izuku's cheeks. He nervously scratched the back of his neck. Ochako laid on the bed until Recovery Girl came over and gave her a dose of pain medication and something to reduce her stomach ache. You should only need to lay here until that kicks in, then you should be free to go, she informed her, stepping out of the room. Ochako leaned back, staring at the ceiling as she waited for the medication to kick in. Only when she heard some shuffling next to her did she realize that Izuku was still in the room. You don't have to wait around, you know, she said. The others are probably waiting for you, you know. Yesterday, you waited for me to wake up before you left. It's the least I can do. Izuku retaliated. He has a point. Ochako shrugged mentally. Plus, even if you hadn't done that yesterday, I would still stick around. Izuku mumbled. Ochako smiled. Of course Izuku would stick around. I'm glad. The two sat in silence for a few moments, until something came to Ochako's mind. Hey, Deku. She got his attention. He hummed. Ochako took a deep breath. The room was quiet enough that she could hear every one of his breaths. I wanted to ask you something. She heard Izuku's breath stop, as if he were holding it. Why, yeah, he said, voice a bit shaky. Well, now isn't a good time. Can I ask you later? It is important, I promise. In Ochako's mind, a hospital room wasn't the greatest of places to confess. Sure. They sat in silence for a few more minutes, and Ochako eventually felt the medicine kick in. She sat up with a groan. Izuku rushed over, grabbing her shoulder to steady her. I'm all right, Deku. Ready to go back to the dorm rooms. Izuku nodded. I heard there's going to be an after party to celebrate the winners. Ochako got up off the bed and made for the door, Izuku trailing just behind her. Who's throwing it? Ochako asked. Izuku shrugged. The whole class, I think. He tilted his head. I'm surprised they got that by Iida. Ochako snickered a little bit. I bet they didn't. Watch. The entire time, Iida is going to be running around making sure everyone is not doing anything bad. Izuku thought for a moment, before breaking into laughter. Ha ha, I can just imagine him doing that. Izuku laughed as they turned a corner. They walked the rest of the way to the dorms enveloped in conversation, mostly speculating what Iida would be doing at the party. They loved their blue-haired friend, but he could be a little much sometimes. They finally made it back to the dorms, where they opened the door. The main level was already a disaster area. To start off, the entire kitchen was chaotic, with people running all around the place frantically, all whilst smoke came out of the oven. Promoted stories. You'll also like The Hero's Return MHAXJJK, ongoing 116K 1.7K and Quad, Izuku. Midoriya, after being betrayed and killed, vanishes leaving hurt people behind. After 2 months and a hack, He come back, changed. How will the class read? I am, sequel of, you are check mark 69.5k 1.8k this. Book is the sequel of, you are so better read that first before going here tears of joy thank you to that one reader that suggested this title. I can't see you sad face but thank you. Free. Oni Shots 150k3k This is a collections of free X readers. Requests on this are now closed. Own Fluke a day 112k 8.2 kilo amperes. Collection of short Own Fluke over 365 days. Please check the second book for the rest of the day's update. After all, Own Fluke 11.4k 802. Will edit once I'm free. N. This is a work of fiction, and any similarity with other works is purely coincidental. Excuse grammatical errors and misspellings. Eng. Hurt cuz I love you to death Izuocha. Ha. Point 9k 141 Class 1A is now Class 2A and is working to be better heroes due to events that had happened before. Deku has gotten strong feelings toward Uraraka during the summer as much needed love Yandere Succubus Momo X Izu, 52.3k 826 after Wattpad had decided to delete this story out of nowhere. I and many reader were distraught. So I'm making a remake of the story from the ground up to compensate. Get the fire extinguisher, Kaminari yelled, running around with his hands on the sides of his head. No, just get Todoroki, you dolt. Hiroshima yelled back, fanning the smoke away from the oven. Izuku broke off from Ochako, rushing over to see what was the matter. What happened? Izuku asked. Hiroshima looked up and smiled. That was a super manly fight. Great job. Hiroshima congratulated, and as for this, well, Kaminari tried to cook garlic bread. Turns out he hit one too many zeros when setting the temperature and set the oven to 4,000 degrees instead of 400. Izuku just looked inside the oven. Sure enough, on the inside was a black lump, which he assumed used to be garlic bread, emanating smoke. I got Todoroki. Kaminari yelled, dragging the champion by the arm. Todoroki just let himself be yanked over to the oven. He placed his right arm on the stove, filling it with ice. The people people in the kitchen cheered. Izuku decided to look around the rest of the room to see what was going on. A few of the girls from the class were huddled around a chair talking. Some people were drinking sodas in a corner. Some people were playing a board game in a different corner. Then, something caught Izuku's eye. Hooked up to the TV was a GameCube, and on the screen, Tokiyami and Jiro were playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. Izuku felt his legs carry him over to the console before he even knew what was going on. I play winner, Izuku said. Tokiyami looked away from the screen for a moment, and saw Izuku. He only silently nodded. The match was tied, 2 stocks to 2 stocks. Tokiyami was playing as Falco, and Jiro was playing as Marth. Izuku watched the battle with veterans' eyes as Tokiyami traded a stock with Jiro, but then taking the final stock with a combo. Junrio threw down the controller, but shook Tokiyami's hand. Good game, she said begrudgingly, before turning to Izuku. He's good. Watch yourself. Izuku nodded in acknowledgement. He picked up the controller, and instantly felt more at home than he ever had at the dorm rooms. He flicked through a couple button combos, getting used to the controller once more. Tokiyami looked to Izuku, like he was asking if he was ready. Izuku nodded, and Tokiyami brought up the character select screen. Izuku could do it in his sleep by now. The second to last slot on the top row, all the way on the right. Captain Falcon. Tokiyami raised an eyebrow, which Izuku ignored. Tokiyami chose Falco once again, and selected Final Destination as the stage. Izuku watched as the characters loaded into the stage, and he was back in his childhood once more. The buttons in his hands felt so familiar. It was the type of muscle memory that never went away. Izuku started off the battle by dashing straight at Tokiyami, shielding perfectly in sync with Falco's ranged attacks. Izuku started the combo, buttons falling into place at just the right times. It all came rushing back as the percentage stacked up 12, 20, 45, 70. Izuku ended the combo with a devastating up smash, claiming Tokiyami's first stock without taking a single hit of damage. The second stock went nearly as fast. As soon as Falco was able to be hit again, Izuku locked him into a chain grab, racking up damage without his opponent being able to stop it at all. Tokiyami was about to get out, but Izuku performed a shield break, making Falco stationary on the field. Detroit Smash, Izuku muttered, just for the joke of it, as Captain Falcon performed a Falcon Punch, launching his opponent off the map. 2 more to go, Izuku thought. He still hadn't taken any damage. Yo, holy shit, Kirishima said from behind Izuku. The green-haired boy barely even noticed it. His mind was in his fingers, and his fingers were playing the game. Izuku felt like he heard more talking and shuffling behind him, but didn't pay much mind to it. Izuku took the third stock by throwing Tokiyami off the cliff edge, then getting a perfectly timed edge guard, knocking Tokiyami away. Izuku jumped off the edge, hit Falco with a down smash, killing him, then jumping back up to the platform. There was some oohs and ahs from behind Izuku. He didn't have time to look at who was watching. All he needed to focus on was winning without taking damage. Izuku saw something yellow come out of his peripheral vision as Tokiyami started to respawn. Izuku realized it was Kaminari, walking straight towards the TV, looking down at his phone. If he blocked Izuku's vision, it may mean him taking damage. Why? Izuku started, but Kirishima beat him to it. Get down, Electro Dolt. Kirishima yelled, flying over the couch. Izuku saw Kaminari get tackled to the floor by someone with spiky red hair just as Tokiyami respawned. Izuku was able to block another barrage of lasers, before racking up some damage with a chain grab, before throwing him off the cliff. Izuku ended it all with a edgeguard by falcon punching just as Tokiyami was about to grab the ledge. The game ended 4-0, Izuku having taken no damage. Izuku put down the controller, stretching his hands. Izuku looked behind him to see at least 12 of the people from the class looking at him in shock. They looked between the scoreboard and Izuku, shell-shocked. Izuku scratched the back of his neck nervously. The silence was broken by Jiro. "Hey, I want next." "No, me. I want to try." With one simple game, Izuku had set himself up for playing against nearly every single person in Class 1A. Match after match came, and Izuku was blowing through his competition. He took some damage to some of his opponents, but he never lost a stock. Midoriya is a god among men. Kirishima cried as he lost. Mina's pink hand rested on Kirishima's shoulder as she jumped over the couch, snatching the controller from her boyfriend's hand. "My turn," she said, selecting Jigglypuff. The match started with how Izuku normally did. He rushed at his opponent hoping to get an early combo off. He got a few hits in, but unlike his other opponents so far, Mina was able to shield at just the right time to stop his combo. The fight went on, and Izuku actually took some damage. Mina was by far the most competent of his challengers. Izuku went in for another combo and, next thing he knew, Captain Falcon was off the map. A rest kill. What? The crowd cheered at Izuku losing a stock for once. Izuku cracked his neck as he respawned, stealing himself. Izuku took one of Mina's stocks, and then they traded. It was 2-2, and Izuku was beginning to become worried. Was his reign of terror going to end? Turns out the answer was no. Izuku took one of Mina's stocks with a deadly combo before denying her the victory with a stock trade. "Ah!" Mina groaned. "I thought I had you there for a while." She shook Izuku's hand reluctantly. "Midoriya may have not won the tournament, but at least he's the king of something." Kaminari joked, before being punched in the shoulder by Jiro. "At least he got further than you did." She teased, causing Kaminari to grumble. The party went on for a little while longer without much happening. Declaring Izuku as the god of Smash, everyone swapped out the game and console to the Halo series. Izuku tried a few matches, but got stomped by Kirishima, so he decided to take a break away from the video games. He walked into the kitchen to grab a drink of punch, but as soon as he turned the corner, he nearly ran into Iida, who was walking around at a rapid pace. "My apologies, Midoriya," Iida said as he blew by Izuku. "I must make sure nobody is up to activities that are unbefitting of a hero." Izuku just watched Iida jog around, waving his arms in frantic motions. Izuku couldn't help but snicker at his friend's ridiculous behavior. Some people never change, he thought to himself. Izuku turned back towards the kitchen and froze. Standing at the tap, filling up a glass with water, was Bakugo. His posture was slumped and his clothes looked like he threw them on only to come downstairs. Not only that, but his hair was a mess and were his cheeks red. Izuku took a step forwards to ask him what was wrong, but the sound of him moving caused Bakugo's head to snap towards him. What Izuku saw unnerved him. Bakugo always had a certain look. in his eyes. A look of confidence, or that he was looking down on you. He tended to sneer and have a look of anger permanently plastered on his face. None of that was on his face right now. His eyes were softer, almost as if they weren't looking right at Izuku, but rather, through him. The intense look on his face was completely missing, instead replaced with a certain dullness. It was shocking to say the least. The moment Bakugo saw Izuku, he spun around, not even bothering to turn off the tap. He was out of the room, going up the stairs before Izuku even knew what was going on. Izuku moved to chase him. Cock. Midoriya, get in here. We're playing a game, Kaminari yelled from the other room. Izuku gazed down the path Bakugo had left too. I can talk to him later, Izuku surmised, turning off the tap and walking into the other room. About half the room was sitting in a large circle, while the other half sat off to the side, watching. We're playing Spin the Bottle, Kirishima said. Wanna join? Spin the Bottle? Izuku asked, confused. Everyone blanched at him. Have you seriously never heard of Spin the Bottle? Izuku shook his head. Kirishima took a deep breath. Basically, you sit in a circle and spin a bottle. Whoever it points to when it stops spinning, you have to kiss, he said. As soon as he heard the last part, Izuku threw his arms up, blush blatant on his face. And no thanks, he said, joining the outside of the circle. Mina snickered. See, told you he wouldn't do it. The circle consisted of Kaminari, Kirishima, Jiro, Mina, Momo, Toru, Ojiro, Siro, Sue, Mineta unfortunately, and Iida. The blue-haired boy looked up. Why are you playing Spin the Bottle? I am simply doing my duty as class representative. I was told by not participating that I am distancing myself from those I am responsible for, and I cannot do that. Iida explained, eliciting a laugh from Izuku. The boy was extraordinarily dedicated to his job. Izuku joined Uraraka, Tokiyami and Todoroki on the outside of the circle, where they could safely watch the happenings. The game started with Kirishima spinning the bottle. It went around a few times, and luckily for him, landed directly on Mina. The pink girl smiled and pecked her boyfriend on the lips quickly. Ah, Uraraka cooed from next to Izuku, causing Izuku to blush at realizing how close she was to him. He forced himself to push past his embarrassment and watch the game. All right, my turn, Toru said, grabbing the bottle before anyone else had a chance to. Izuku could hear her soft muttering as she waited for the bottle to come to a halt. Ojiro, 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 she chanted. Izuku decided to ignore it, not wanting to feel even more awkward by acknowledging it. The bottle spun to a stop, and once again it landed on Siro. Damn, she said under her breath before sighing. Well, let's get it over with, she said, moving from her spot on the carpet. She made her way over and leaned over, where Siro met her face. She pulled away with a groan. That was my eyeball, not my lips, you dummy, she exclaimed, causing an eruption of laughter from everyone, including Tokiyami, who simply chuckled softly. Even that was rare from his bird-like friend. The game on for a little while longer. Iida got picked by Momo, but politely declined, claiming that it would harm their working environment, because they were the two class representatives. There was an awkward kiss between Sue and Mina, and one between Ojiro and Kirishima. Finally, my turn, Mineta practically screamed, grabbing the bottle before anyone could stop him. Sue grumbled, we should have kicked him from the very start. Too late now, he said, spinning the bottle, chanting all the while, please give me someone good. The bottle went around and around, everyone holding their breaths. It started slowing, passing 3 people before coming to a stop, halfway, between Kaminari and Jiro. I don't care, it's close enough, Mineta screamed, throwing himself across the circle, it's finally my chance. Jiro groaned, getting her earphone jacks ready to stab him. Just at the last moment, Kaminari threw himself in front of Jiro, catching Mineta's lips on his own. Mineta jumped back as if he had been burned. What the hell? It was totally on her, not you. Mineta said, staggering away. I don't know what you're talking about. It was definitely me, Kaminari said, smirk on his face. Jiro turned to him, giving a silent thanks. Kaminari just smiled. Just then, Uraraka poked Izuku's side, causing him to look over. He hummed as the game continued. Could we go get a drink of punch? She asked. Izuku had already gotten some earlier, but his answer was immediate. Sure thing. The two walked over to the kitchen, and Izuku's thoughts flashed back to the state he had seen Bakugo in. I'll worry about that later. When Uraraka didn't stop at the punch bowl, Izuku was confused. Wait, I thought you wanted punch. Izuku protested. That was just an excuse to get away. She said, opening the door that led to the staircase, follow me. Izuku didn't have much of a choice. He could either go back to the game and feel even more awkward now that Uraraka wasn't there, or he could follow her instructions and follow her up the stairs. He ran after her, catching up after a few seconds. They went up flight after flight until Uraraka went to the staircase that led to the roof. Why are we going to the roof? Izuku asked, grabbing her arm to stop her frantic flight up the staircase. You remember how I wanted to ask you something earlier? Izuku nodded, remembering her earlier decision to wait for a better time, that. Now slightly more curious, Izuku followed Uraraka out the door onto the roof. He was met with a dark sky filled with stars and a cool breeze in his hair. Uraraka pulled Izuku over to the ledge, opting to sit on it and dangle her feet off the edge. They sat for a while in silence, neither wanting to start the conversation. They looked at the other dorm buildings and at the street far below. Izuku had to admit, it was quite relaxing to get away from the crazy party for a little while. It really is nice up here, Izuku finally said. The breeze is cool and refreshing. Uraraka nodded before letting out a little giggle. What, are you laughing at me? He asked. No, well, kind of. Why are you laughing at me? No, I just think it's kind of cute. At that, Izuku's entire face flushed pink. Of course she could make him flustered instantly. What's cute? Izuku stuttered. Uraraka giggled again. I just think it's cute you see this is so impressive it's actually kind of ironic, actually. She said. Ironic. Izuku tilted his head. That's actually what I came up here to show you. She said, standing up from the ledge, pulling Izuku with her, still red-faced and blushing. She placed Izuku's arm on her hip and grabbed onto his arm tightly. Whatever you do, don't let go. She said. Don't let off. Izuku yelled as he was suddenly lifted off the ground. He kept flying into the sky, like gravity was pushing him away from the ground instead of pulling him towards it. Only then did he realize that Uraraka was lifting them into the air. Ha ha. She giggled at Izuku's momentary panic. They flew into the sky for a few moments longer before slowing to a stop. Now this. Uraraka gestured below her, as a view. Izuku was shocked by the sight. Sprawled out below him, like dots on a map, was the city of Tokyo. The street lights lit up the area, each light like a grain of sand on the beach. In the distance the waves rolled into the beach, water almost black due to the time of night. It was the sight of a lifetime. It's beautiful, was the only thing Izuku could get out of his mouth. Uraraka just nodded, and you can come up here whenever you want. Uraraka just nodded again. Izuku turned back to the view before him, absorbing as much of it as he could into his brain. Izuku turned to Uraraka, and that made it all so much better. The view alone was enough to make this one of the most rememberable moments of his life. Now seeing that he was experiencing that with Uraraka, his best friend, his first real friend, touched Izuku even more. He could feel the tears tugging at his eyes. Izuku looked at the scene for a moment before he felt Uraraka tense up and take a deep breath. Hey Deku, she asked. Izuku turned and looked at her. Her face was soft and she looked nervous. Yeah, can I say something? He nodded eagerly. Uraraka grabbed his arm and spun him so that they were directly facing each other. Uraraka took another deep breath, and Izuku could feel her hand tighten around his arm. You know why I said those things to Bakugo, right? She finally said. Izuku looked at her with concern in his eyes. Why was she bringing this up now? Well, kind of do you want to tell me why? He asked. He wasn't stupid. He could get context clues that that was what she wanted to talk about. Uraraka nodded, breath shaky. I told him those things because I really care about you. Deku. Izuku opened his mouth, but Uraraka cut him off. You're my best friend. Out of all the people that I've met here at UA, you're the one I care about the most. I look up to you and your amazing determination to becoming a hero. I always wish I could be like you. And I hate it when you get hurt. Whether it be when you break yourself to save someone, or when someone like Bakugo hurts you emotionally when you care about them. Izuku couldn't bring himself to find words. He also had a feeling Uraraka wasn't finished yet. I know it's cheesy and I know that you may not believe me, but Deku, you are my hero. It's been that way since the first time you saved me at the entrance exam. I can't find any other way to put it than when you got hurt by that villain in the alleyway and she trailed off. Izuku could see the tears forming in her eyes. She was getting all worked up over him. So Izuku did the only logical thing that came to mind. He pulled Uraraka into a tight hug, wrapping his arms tightly around her. She stiffened for a moment before loosening up, allowing Izuku to hug her. Only after he was holding her did she realize how much she needed it. All the pent-up emotions were breaking free. Izuku held Uraraka until she broke away from the hug, but neither let go of each other. Izuku felt a little awkward, but at this point he didn't care. His friend needed him, so he would be there. There's something else, Uraraka said after an eternity. She took a deep breath. What is it? Izuku asked innocently. Uraraka steadied herself. Now was the perfect moment, and she would not allow herself to turn back. It was now or never. I've actually been holding this inside for a while. A long time actually. I've never really wanted to say it, because I thought it would get in the way of our hero work, but now I don't care anymore. I've held it in for a while, and it's been killing me. Uraraka took a deep breath, steadying herself to continue. Deku, I like you. She said it softly, but Izuku could still hear it clearly. Does she mean? Izuku instantly went into denial. No, she just means like best friends, right? Like, really really like you. Like romantically. Uraraka just came out and said it, throwing all of Izuku's inner worries out the window. All those things I admire about you, they've turned into something more. I just can't keep it in, it's been so long and I just had to get it out. I really like you, Deku. Izuku started to panic internally. Wait, she likes me back. No way this is happening. No way, no way. Miraculously, Izuku was able to keep it together on the surface. Izuku's own inner panic must have made him pause for a second too long, because Uraraka started to take his pause as a bad sign. Oh no, I didn't mess something up, did I? She started to tear up, of course. Just like you thought would happen. You've gone and Uraraka was cut off by Izuku grabbing her into a hug once more. Uraraka gasped slightly in surprise. Izuku was only able to snap out of his panic because he saw how he was affecting Uraraka. He separated slightly from the hug slightly and looked Uraraka in the face. He cupped Uraraka's face in his hands. He stared into her eyes, mesmerized by the starry look in her irises. Did I ever tell you how beautiful your eyes are? Uraraka gasped, putting a hand against her chest, and he could see her eyes watering once again. Izuku didn't know what elicited that reaction, but those words obviously meant something to her. Izuku rolled his thumb across her cheek, staring into her eyes. His eyes drifted downwards slightly and caught sight of her lips. Izuku didn't know what came over him. One moment he was looking into Uraraka's eyes, drinking in her presence, the next he was leaning forwards. Izuku pushed his lips lightly against Uraraka's in a short, yet meaningful kiss. Where words couldn't prevail, actions had to. Izuku pulled away, feeling uncharacteristically confident. Maybe it was that he was with Uraraka alone. Like her presence invigorated him. I like you too, Ochako. God, I've liked you for a long time. Uraraka looked into Izuku's eyes, processing what he had just said. When she finally did, tears formed at the corners of her eyes, but these weren't sad tears. Did I say something wrong? Izuku stuttered out, back in character. Uraraka shook her head slightly. No, you said everything just right. Uraraka threw herself forwards, enveloping Izuku's lips in another kiss. It was the kiss they would both remember for a lifetime. Alone, floating above Tokyo, paying attention to nothing but each other. And where stories live. Discover now.